The massive research vessel Seeker drifted slowly through the empty sector of space. Its sleek hull gleamed under the light of distant stars, while various scanning equipment protruded from its sides like curious antennae. Captain James Walker stood at the observation deck, his weathered face reflected in the reinforced glass as he stared into the darkness of space. "Captain, you might want to see this." The voice of his science officer, Dr. Reed, crackled through the ship's communication system. "We found something unusual." Walker made his way to the research lab, where holographic displays filled the room with a soft blue glow. The screen showed what looked like a massive cloud of debris floating in space. But as the sensors focused, the image became clearer. These weren't random pieces of space junk. "Are those?" Walker's voice trailed off as he leaned closer to the display. "Ships, Captain. Hundreds of them." Dr. Reed adjusted the scanning frequency, and the image sharpened. "They appear to be warships, but unlike anything in our database." The news spread quickly through the coalition channels. Within hours, representatives from 12 advanced species had gathered in the sector. Their ships, each more impressive than the last, surrounded the ancient fleet like curious predators investigating an old carcass. The coalition's supreme commander, Admiral Stone, arrived in his flagship, a city-sized vessel that could destroy a small moon. His holographic image appeared in every ship's command center. "What do we know about these relics?" Dr. Reed presented the findings. The ships are approximately 3,000 years old. They appear to be warships, but their design is, well, primitive by our standards. They use physical armor instead of energy shields, kinetic weapons instead of plasma cannons. Even their navigation systems are based on old-style computers rather than quantum AI. Laughter erupted from several coalition representatives. "These aren't warships," sneered one alien commander, his translucent skin pulsing with amusement. "They're space-worthy coffins." "Look at the armor plating," another chimed in. "It's not even self-repairing. One hit from our weapons would tear right through it." But Walker wasn't laughing. Something about these ships felt familiar. He studied the designs carefully, noting the practical layout, the redundant systems, the simple but effective weapon placements. These weren't the work of an inferior civilization. They were built by people who understood the harsh realities of space warfare. "Permission to board one of the vessels, Admiral?" Walker asked, interrupting the chorus of mockery. Admiral Stone waved his hand dismissively. "Granted, though I don't see what you expect to find in these museum pieces." Walker led a small team to the largest ship in the ancient fleet. Their shuttle approached carefully, lights illuminating the massive hull. Up close, the ship was even more impressive. Despite its age, the hull showed minimal damage. The design was elegant in its simplicity. No wasted space, no unnecessary decorations. They found an entry point and cut their way inside. The ship's interior was dark and cold, but otherwise perfectly preserved. Walker's flashlight beam revealed corridors designed for practical movement during combat, backup systems for every critical component, and weapon systems that could be repaired with basic tools. "This isn't primitive technology," Walker muttered, running his hand along a wall. "This is technology built to last, to function even under the worst conditions." In the ship's command center, they found something unexpected. A simple message terminal, still operational after thousands of years. Walker pressed the activation button, and a holographic message appeared. The text was in an ancient language, but one that made Walker's heart skip a beat. "What is it, Captain?" one of his team members asked. Walker stared at the familiar letters, his mind racing with implications. "It's English. An old form of it, but definitely English." He translated the message slowly. "To those who find this fleet, consider it a gift from humanity. You'll know when it's time to use it." As they made their way back to their shuttle, Walker couldn't shake the feeling that they had just stumbled upon something monumentally important. The Coalition might laugh at these ships now, but Walker knew better. Humanity had built this fleet for a reason, and he had a feeling they were about to find out why. 3 weeks after discovering the ancient fleet, the Coalition's emergency alarm systems blared across every ship and colony. Captain Walker was reviewing the data from the old ships when red lights flooded the Seeker's corridors. "Captain, to the bridge immediately." The voice was urgent, scared. Walker rushed to the bridge, where chaos had erupted. The main screen showed multiple Coalition colonies under attack. Massive black ships, shaped like arrowheads, were appearing out of nowhere and destroying everything in their path. "What are we looking at?" Walker demanded. "They call themselves the Dominators." Admiral Stone's hologram appeared, his usual confidence gone. "They appeared at our outer colonies without warning. They've already destroyed 3 defense stations." The footage streaming in was terrifying. The Coalition's most advanced ships fired their energy weapons at the Dominator vessels. But their shots simply disappeared into invisible shields. Nothing seemed to work against them. "Our plasma cannons aren't even scratching their shields," one of the colony commanders shouted before his transmission cut off permanently. Walker watched in horror as another Coalition battleship, 10 times the size of his research vessel, exploded into space dust. The Dominator's weapons cut through their best shields like they weren't even there. "All ships, retreat to the central systems," Admiral Stone ordered. "We need to regroup and analyze their technology." The next few days were filled with more bad news. The Dominators pushed deeper into Coalition space, destroying everything in their path. Their shields seemed to adapt to every weapon the Coalition used. Energy beams, quantum torpedoes, gravity bombs. Nothing worked. In an emergency meeting, the Coalition leaders gathered to discuss their options. The holographic chamber was filled with angry and scared faces from a dozen different species. "How many ships have we lost?" someone asked. Admiral Stone's face was grim. 237. "Some of our best vessels." He paused. "And we haven't destroyed a single enemy ship." "Impossible," shouted one of the alien commanders. "Our technology is superior to anything in known space." "Clearly not everything," Walker said quietly, but loud enough to be heard. All eyes turned to him. Admiral Stone frowned. "Do you have something to add, Captain Walker?" Walker stepped forward, pulling up images of the ancient fleet they had found. "We've been fighting the wrong way. We're so proud of our advanced technology that we can't see its weaknesses. These Dominators, they'd found a way to counter every energy weapon we have." "What are you suggesting?" Admiral Stone asked. "The ancient fleet we found. The one everyone laughed at. It doesn't use energy weapons. It uses physical projectiles. Kinetic weapons. Simple, but..." Walker pulled up his scans of the old ship's weapon systems. "What if their shields are designed specifically to stop energy weapons?" The room fell silent. Admiral Stone stroked his chin thoughtfully. "You think these old ships might actually work against them?" "There's only one way to find out," Walker said. "But we need to act fast. The Dominators are getting closer to our core worlds every day." The debate raged for hours. Many Coalition leaders couldn't accept the idea of using primitive weapons. Their pride was still strong, even in the face of defeat. But as more reports of destroyed ships and colonies came in, their options grew limited. Finally, Admiral Stone made his decision. "Captain Walker, you have 72 hours to get one of those ancient ships operational. If you can prove these old weapons can hurt the Dominators, we'll consider waking up the rest of the fleet." Walker wasted no time. He gathered a small team and headed back to the ancient fleet. As they approached the massive old warship they had explored before, he noticed something different about it. In the face of this new threat, it didn't look primitive anymore. It looked ready. "Let's power her up," Walker told his team as they docked. "Something tells me these old ships still have some fight left in them." As they worked to bring the ancient systems online, Walker couldn't help but wonder, had humanity known this day would come? Had they left this fleet behind not because they died out, but because they knew someone would need it someday? He was about to find out. Deep inside the ancient warship, Walker and his team worked nonstop. The ship's old systems hummed to life one by one. each activation revealing new surprises about its creators. Dr. Reed sat at what appeared to be the ship's main computer, his eyes wide as he decoded more of the English text. "Captain, you need to see this," Dr. Reed called out, his voice filled with excitement. "These files, they're telling a story about humanity." Walker moved to the screen, watching as ancient text scrolled past. What kind of story? According to these records, humans faced something similar to the Dominators about 3,000 years ago. Dr. Reed pointed to different sections of text. They called them the Swarm. They used similar shield technology that made energy weapons useless. More team members gathered around as Dr. Reed continued reading. Humans were part of an older alliance, much like our coalition. They had advanced energy weapons too, but nothing worked against the Swarm's shields. "So what did they do?" Walker asked, though he was beginning to guess the answer. "They went back to basics. They developed these ships with kinetic weapons, rail guns that fired physical projectiles at incredible speeds. Simple, but..." Dr. Reed paused, checking another file. "Incredibly effective. The Swarm's shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not solid objects moving at near light speed." Walker walked to the ship's bridge, running his hand along the control panels. Everything was built to be easily understood and repaired. No fancy holographic displays, just sturdy screens and physical controls. "They built these ships to last," he muttered. "That's not all," Dr. Reed called from the computer room. "These ships were left behind on purpose. The humans knew that shield technology would keep developing along the same lines. They predicted that someday another civilization would face the same problem they did." The team spent hours reading through the files. They learned that humanity had spread across thousands of worlds, building a vast civilization. But instead of focusing only on advancing their technology, they had maintained what worked. They kept improving their primitive weapons alongside their energy weapons. "Look at this," one of the engineers called out. She was examining the ship's main weapon system. The rail guns can be easily modified to fire different types of ammunition. They're simple, but genius in design. Walker studied a tactical display showing the ship's combat capabilities. The weapons might be basic in principle, but their implementation was masterful. Multiple backup systems, redundant power supplies, and mechanical controls that could work even if the main computer failed. "Sir," Dr. Reed's voice shook slightly, "I found something else. A message recorded by the human admiral who led this fleet." The team gathered as Dr. Reed played the message. A hologram appeared, a human woman in a uniform, her face serious but kind. "To those who find this fleet," the message began, "you're probably facing an enemy that seems unstoppable. Their shields absorb every energy weapon you have. Your most advanced technology is useless against them." The Admiral's hologram smiled. "We faced the same challenge. We learned that sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution. These ships are our gift to you. They're not pretty, they're not advanced by your standards, but they work. More importantly, they'll keep working even when everything else fails." The message continued, explaining key systems and battle strategies. The human admiral had recorded hours of tactical advice and technical information, all designed to help whoever found the fleet. "Captain," one of the engineers called out, "main systems are online. This ship, she's ready to fight." Walker nodded, feeling a deep connection to the humans who had built this vessel. They hadn't just created warships, they had created a legacy, a helping hand reaching across thousands of years to aid whoever needed it. He activated his communication link to Admiral Stone. "Admiral, you're going to want to hear this. We haven't just found an old fleet. We found humanity's answer to the Dominators, and it's exactly what we need." As his team prepared the ship for its first flight in 3,000 years, Walker couldn't help but feel proud. The Coalition had laughed at these ships, but the humans who built them had the last laugh. They had seen the future and prepared for it, leaving behind not just weapons, but hope. Time was running out. The Dominators had destroyed 5 more colonies, while Walker's team worked to get the ancient fleet ready for battle. Inside the first activated ship, which they had named Legacy, the crew rushed to understand its systems. "How's the weapons training coming along?" Walker asked, entering the ship's main gun control room. The space was different from modern warships. No neural interfaces, no AI targeting systems, just solid mechanical controls and sturdy view screens. "Better than expected, Captain," replied Tom, the weapons officer. His hands moved confidently over the controls. "These systems are so logical. Point, aim, shoot. The targeting computer is basic but extremely reliable." Walker watched as Tom demonstrated the main rail gun system. On the practice range they had set up, the weapon fired a solid metal projectile at an incredible speed. The test target, built to modern military standards, didn't just break, it shattered. "Load recorded," Tom said, checking his screen. "That shot was traveling at 30% of light speed, and this isn't even the maximum setting." Reports came in from other parts of the fleet as more ships powered up. The coalition had sent 5,000 engineers and crew members to help. Many of them had laughed at first, but that laughter quickly turned to amazement. "Captain, you need to see this." Dr. Reed's excited voice came through the communicator. He was working on another ship they had named Thunder. "We found the ammunition factory." Walker made his way to Thunder's lower decks. There he found a massive room filled with machinery. Dr. Reed stood next to a control panel, beaming with pride. "Watch this," Dr. Reed said. He pressed a few buttons, and the machines hummed to life. Raw materials went in one end, and minutes later, perfectly formed railgun projectiles came out the other. Each ship can make its own ammunition. They never need to reload at a base. The next discovery came from the engine room. "These engines are incredible," the chief engineer reported. "They're not as fast as our modern drives, but they can run forever on almost any fuel. And if something breaks, we can fix it with basic tools." Admiral Stone visited personally to inspect their progress. Walker led him through Legacy's corridors, showing him the activated systems. "Impressive," the Admiral admitted, watching a demonstration of the railgun's power. "But can it penetrate Dominator shields?" "We think so," Walker said. He pulled up a tactical display. "Their shields are energy-based, designed to stop plasma and laser weapons. But these projectiles are different. They're physical objects moving at near light speed. The shield might slow them down, but it can't stop them completely." The Admiral nodded slowly. "How many ships can we get ready?" 50 by tomorrow. Another 100 within 3 days." Walker checked his datapad. "The ships are in perfect condition. The humans built them to last." "And the crews, can they learn to use this old technology?" Walker smiled. "That's the beauty of it, Admiral. These ships were designed to be easy to learn. No complex interfaces, no AI to argue with. Just solid, reliable machines that do exactly what you tell them to." As if to prove his point, an alarm sounded. "Alert! Dominator scout ship detected at the edge of the sector." Walker and the Admiral rushed to the bridge. On the main screen, they watched as a single Dominator vessel approached the ancient fleet. "Time to test our theory," Walker said. He opened a channel to Thunder, which had the best firing position. "You are cleared to engage. Single shot only." Everyone watched in tense silence as Thunder's main gun turned toward the Dominator ship. The rail gun fired once, sending a projectile streaking through space. The Dominator's shields flared bright purple as the projectile hit them, but they couldn't stop it. The round punched straight through, tearing a massive hole in the enemy ship. Secondary explosions followed, and the Dominator vessel split apart. A cheer went up across all channels. Admiral Stone's face showed both shock and hope. "How many ships did you say we could have ready by tomorrow?" Walker smiled. 50, sir, and each one can do exactly what you just saw." "Get them all ready," the Admiral ordered. It's time to show the Dominators that sometimes the old ways are the best ways. As the Admiral left, Walker looked around Legacy's bridge. These ships might be ancient, but they were exactly what humanity had promised, the right tools for the right moment. Now it was time to use them. The Dominators attacked at dawn, their black ships filling the space around New Terra Colony. They expected another easy victory. Instead, they found 50 ancient warships waiting for them. All ships, battle formation. Walker commanded from Legacy's bridge. The old ship hummed with power, its crew ready at their stations. Remember your training. These ships might be old, but they know how to fight. The Dominators struck first. Energy beams lanced out from their ships, powerful enough to destroy modern vessels instantly. But the ancient fleet was different. Their thick armor absorbed hits that would have vaporized energy shields. Damage report. Walker called out after the first hits. Armor at 85%, sir, replied his damage control officer. The outer layer is scorched but holding. These old plates are tough. Walker smiled. It was time to show the Dominators what humanity's gift could do. All ships, open fire. Show them what these primitive weapons can do. 50 rail guns fired at once. The space between the fleets filled with streaks of light as hypersonic projectiles crossed the distance in seconds. The Dominator's shields flared bright purple, trying to stop the physical rounds. They failed. The first volley tore through 3 Dominator ships. Massive holes appeared in their hulls, followed by internal explosions. Their famous shields, useless against kinetic weapons, flickered and died. Direct hits. Tom shouted from the weapons station. Enemy ships breaking formation. The Dominators tried to regroup, but they had never faced weapons like these. Their tactics were designed for energy weapon battles, long-range exchanges where shields meant everything. They didn't know how to fight ships that could punch straight through their defenses. They're trying to get closer, Dr. Reed reported from his scanner. They think their short-range weapons will work better. Walker grinned. This was exactly what the human admiral's tactical files had predicted. Spring the trap. Close-range battle plan, just like the humans taught us. The ancient fleet's formation changed. Instead of staying in a line, the ships broke into smaller groups. Each group targeted a different Dominator vessel, approaching from multiple angles. Watch this, Walker said as Legacy closed in on a Dominator ship. Fire the scatter guns. The secondary weapons, looking like massive shotguns in space, fired clouds of small projectiles. The Dominator shields, designed to stop single powerful energy beams, couldn't handle thousands of tiny objects hitting them at once. Their shields overloaded and collapsed. All ships fire at will. Walker ordered. The battle turned into chaos, but it was controlled chaos, exactly as planned. The ancient ships might be slower, but they were incredibly tough. Their thick armor let them get close to the enemy, where their weapons were most effective. A Dominator ship 3 times Legacy's size exploded right in front of them. The blast rocked the old ship, but its sturdy construction held firm. Sir, called out the communications officer. The other sectors are reporting similar results. The Dominator's shields are useless against our weapons. We're actually winning. The battle raged for hours. The ancient fleet lost 5 ships, but they destroyed 30 Dominator vessels. The once unstoppable enemy found themselves being torn apart by weapons they had dismissed as primitive. Enemy fleet is retreating, announced Dr. Reed. The remaining Dominator ships were turning away, their formation broken. Walker watched them go, feeling a deep respect for the humans who had built these ships. They had understood something important. Sometimes the simplest solution was the best solution. Send word to Admiral Stone, Walker ordered. The ancient fleet works exactly as promised, and tell him we're ready to start waking up the rest of the ships. Cheers broke out across all channels as the news spread. The coalition ships that had been watching from a safe distance moved closer, their crews finally understanding what they were seeing. These weren't just old ships. They were perfect tools for this exact battle. As damage reports came in, Walker noticed something else that proved the humans' wisdom. While some of the ships were damaged, every single one could be repaired with the materials and tools they had on board. No special technology needed, no complex parts to replace. The ancient fleet had won its first battle. But more importantly, it had given the coalition something it desperately needed: hope. 1 month after the first battle, the war had changed completely. The coalition's shipyards worked day and night to copy the ancient fleet's designs. Walker stood in a massive construction bay, watching as workers built new rail guns based on human blueprints. It's amazing how fast everyone changed their minds about primitive technology, Dr. Reed said, standing beside him. They watched as engineers installed a massive rail gun on a modern coalition ship. "Nothing changes minds quite like success," Walker replied. The coalition had woken up all 200 ships from the ancient fleet. Each one was now teaching modern crews how to fight the old way. Admiral Stone called an emergency meeting on his flagship. Representatives from every coalition species attended, their attitudes very different from their first meeting. "The Dominators have lost 60% of their fleet," the Admiral announced, showing a map of recent battles. Red dots marked where Dominator ships had been destroyed. "And we've discovered something interesting about their tactics," Walker stepped forward to explain. He pulled up footage from recent battles. The Dominators always used the same attack patterns. They relied too much on their shields. But in the human tactical files, we found something important. He showed an ancient recording of human battles. Humans learned a long time ago not to depend on any single technology. They kept improving old weapons alongside new ones. That's why these ships carry both rail guns and energy weapons. The coalition leaders watched carefully as Walker explained more human battle tactics. Simple things like changing formations regularly, keeping backup weapons, and always having repair materials ready. "The Dominators don't know how to fight without their shields," Walker continued. "But these old ships, they're ready for anything. Look at this." He showed footage of a recent battle. A coalition ship, rebuilt with human designs, had lost power to its main guns. Instead of retreating, the crew switched to backup mechanical weapons and kept fighting. "This is what humans understood," Walker said. "It's not about having the most advanced technology. It's about having technology you can rely on, no matter what happens." The meeting room buzzed with excitement as more reports came in. Coalition ships with new rail guns were winning battles everywhere. The Dominators couldn't adapt fast enough to this old style of fighting. "But we found something else interesting," Dr. Reed added. He displayed scans of destroyed Dominator ships. "Their technology isn't actually more advanced than ours. It's just different. They focused everything on energy weapons and shields, just like we did. They forgot about simpler solutions, just like we did." Admiral Stone stood up. "The humans didn't just give us weapons," he said. "They gave us a lesson. We became so proud of our advanced technology that we forgot the basics." He turned to Walker. "Captain, I have a new mission for you." Walker listened as the Admiral explained. The coalition was creating a new training academy. Its job would be to teach the lessons they had learned from the ancient fleet. "We want you to lead it," the Admiral said. "Teach our people what these human ships have taught us, not just how to fight, but how to think about technology." Just then, alarms blared across the station, but these were different from battle alarms. A scout ship had found something in deep space, energy readings similar to the ancient fleet. "Sir," a young officer rushed in with a report. "We've found more human ships. Different designs, but definitely their technology. And sir," he paused, catching his breath, "we found records suggesting there might be human colonies out there, descendants of the original builders." The room erupted in excited conversation. Walker looked at the star map where the readings had been found. Had the humans planned this too? Had they scattered their gifts across the galaxy, waiting for the right moment to be found? Admiral Stone called for quiet. "Captain Walker, it seems your academy will have more to teach than we thought. The humans didn't just leave us their technology. They left us a trail to follow. Walker smiled, thinking about how wrong they had all been about the primitive fleet. The humans hadn't died out or abandoned their technology. They had simply seeded it across space, helping guide younger civilizations away from the traps of over-specialized technology. The real journey was just beginning. 5 years passed since the discovery of the ancient fleet. The war with the Dominators was long over, ending in their surrender after their last fortress fell to coalition ships armed with human-designed weapons. But the influence of humanity's gift continued to grow. Walker stood in the grand hall of the new Human Legacy Museum on New Terra. The building itself followed human design principles, beautiful but practical, built to last centuries. In the center of the main hall floated a hologram of the first ancient ship they had awakened, Legacy. "Ready for the opening ceremony, Captain. Or should I say, Director Walker?" Dr. Reed asked, approaching with a smile. Like Walker, he had chosen to dedicate his life to studying and preserving humanity's teachings. "Almost," Walker replied, adjusting his new uniform. After the war, he had retired from active fleet duty to lead the museum and its attached research center. "Are our special guests here?" "They're waiting in the arrival bay." Dr. Reed nodded. "Still can't believe we found them." Following the clues left in the ancient fleet's databases, Coalition explorers had discovered 3 surviving human colonies in distant sectors. They were small communities, descended from research teams the ancient humans had left behind. They had stayed hidden, watching and waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. The museum's doors opened, and the guests of honor entered. John Miller, Sarah Cooper, and Michael Tang, representatives from the human colonies. They looked much like the humans in the ancient recordings, carrying themselves with the same quiet confidence. "Welcome to your legacy," Walker greeted them. "Though I suppose it was never really lost, was it?" John Miller smiled. "Our ancestors believed that some lessons have to be learned, not just taught. They knew that eventually, other civilizations would make the same mistakes we did, becoming too dependent on a single type of technology. So they left the fleet as a teacher," Walker understood, "and kept some of your people hidden to make sure the lesson wouldn't be forgotten." The museum was filled with artifacts and technology from both the ancient fleet and modern coalition ships that used human designs. One display showed a railgun next to a plasma cannon, demonstrating how the coalition now used both technologies together. "Look at this," Sarah Cooper said, pointing to a group of young coalition officers studying a mechanical targeting system. "They're learning to use manual backups even though they have AI systems. That's exactly what we hoped for." The most popular exhibit was the Innovation Center, where visitors could suggest improvements to both old and new technologies. The human guests spent a long time there, adding their own notes to the suggestions. "Your people changed everything," Walker told them. "Not just how we fight, but how we think about progress. We learned that moving forward doesn't mean leaving everything behind." The official opening ceremony began as coalition leaders arrived. Admiral Stone, now Supreme Commander of the Combined Fleet, gave a speech that would be broadcast across coalition space. "5 years ago, we laughed at what we thought was primitive technology," the Admiral said. "Today, we understand that true advancement isn't just about making things more complex. It's about making them work better, last longer, and stay reliable, no matter what happens." Michael Tang stepped forward to speak next. "My ancestors left more than just weapons. They left hope and a reminder that sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones. They left these gifts knowing that someday, someone would need them." After the ceremony, Walker showed the human representatives something special, a new ship design combining coalition and human technology. It had energy weapons and rail guns, shields and armor, computers, and mechanical backups. "We call it the bridge," Walker explained, "because it bridges the gap between old and new, simple and advanced. Every cadet in the Fleet Academy will train on these ships." As they watched the sunset through the museum's huge windows, Walker thought about how far they had come. The coalition had learned humility, wisdom, and the value of keeping things simple. The humans had watched patiently, waiting for the right moment to share their knowledge. What happens now? Walker asked the human representatives. John Miller smiled. Now we work together. There's a whole galaxy out there and lots more lessons to learn. And this time, we'll learn them together. The ancient fleet had started as a gift from the past, but it had become something more, a bridge to the future built by the wisdom of the human race.